Welcome to The Big Break Show, your go-to podcast for real estate investing, business acquisition, mindset, and lifestyle.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Big Break Show. And today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm not interviewing anybody today. I'm actually going to be talking to you guys about a topic that a lot of you guys have actually reached out and asked me about. How do I structure partnerships? I'm going to do an entire episode on strictly partnerships. Now, as always, everything I give you guys is based on my experience, the things that I've done, the people that I've partnered with, the structures that I've done, and the ups and the downs that I've had to go through in my business over the last 9.5 years. And as always, I can only give you guys advice or examples based on my true experience. I'm going to cover things like how to structure partnerships, the equity splits that we do, how to vet people, active versus passive partnerships, how to partner with friends and family, how to keep good partnerships healthy, and how to be successful in your partnerships. Over the last 9.5 years, I've done a ton of partnerships. From the very first deal that I started was with a partnership. That partnership broke, and over the time of setting up my own short-term rentals and doing real estate deals, I've had to partner with people for time, knowledge, and money. A lot of those partnerships that I've done, some of them have been fantastic partnerships. We've made fantastic friends that I travel the world with and people that I truly call family or consider family now. And some of them have just been absolutely terrible. Have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits and losses as well. And I'm going to cover both of those today for you guys. The goal for this episode is if you're about to sign a partnership agreement today, that you can sign a better one. Or if you're in a partnership that's drifting, you can catch it early. I want to give you guys as much information to make educated decisions as always so that you guys can continue to grow and learn and better in your business. That's the whole purpose of the episode. 60% of operators added AI last year to their business, and you'd think it'd be dynamic pricing. That's the sexy one. It wasn't. The biggest win across the board, hands down, was guest communication through AI. Makes sense. If you've ever ran this business, the messages literally never stop. Check-in time, Wi-Fi password, is there a blow dryer? How do we park? Always the same questions over and over. I added HelloHost to handle that layer for me now. It runs on top of my property management software and it responds to guests so good, not sounding like a robot at all, which was my biggest concern about using AI, the AI slop through messaging. This wasn't some fancy AI pricing algorithm, something simple that helped escalate our business and save all of our team members a lot of time. If you're still running 1, 2, or even 3 short-term rentals right now, and you're still responding to messages or relying on your PMS to answer them for you, you're probably leaving a lot of time on the table and a lot of really good reviews on the table. I suggest you check this out. Now, with all that being said, one of the things I want to touch on is the partnerships, and most of the problems that partnerships that I've experienced, they always trace back to the roles. The roles meaning, what is it that every person is responsible for within the partnership? Do you actually need a partnership for this specific deal that you're going to be working on? A lot of people take on partners because they don't want to do it alone. Not because the deal requires it. It's because they want to have someone with them so that they can feel that level of security or safety. And that's a bad reason to give equity or to partner with someone if you know that you can do things by yourself or if you're partnering up with the wrong person. One of the actual reasons that you should actually partner with people and want to create a partnership with someone else and structure a deal together is because of the experience that the other person is bringing. One person brings something that you don't have and can't actually access on your own, whether that's time, money, or experience. It's always the 3 things that always come down to it. Time, the actual work in the operations that is being spent in making the deal work, whatever that partnership may be, whether it's a real estate deal, a acquisition, it doesn't matter what it is. There's time. The second one is money. It's the capital, the credit, the balance sheet, the funds that people are putting into the deal. Maybe you have a fantastic deal, but don't have the money. And you can find a partner that can bring you the money, and therefore you create a relationship and create a partnership. And then there's the third one, which is the experience. And experience is obviously the easiest one. It's the knowledge, the track record, the relationships. I've had to partner with people strictly because of their experience or because they're able to bring something to the table that I don't already have. And we'll talk about that in a little bit about the construction projects, the development that we're doing now. Someone with money and no time partnering with someone with time and no money is the most common structure in real estate. And it actually was very well in real estate because if you bring me a deal that I don't have a time to find, but I have the money to put into a deal, it ends up working very well as long as you have the experience to be able to make that deal happen. One of the biggest fallacies in real estate is that you need money to get started in real estate. And the truth is you don't. You need experience and knowledge or a good deal and the time to be able to make that deal work. I've raised a ton of money from private investors because I have the experience and I have the knowledge and I have the structure to be able to put deals together when someone else doesn't have that or want to do that, and they just give us the money to make sure that we're able to make that deal work and they get paid a passive return. Two partners who both bring money and neither bring time, it just creates a problem. Nobody ends up running the deal itself. So it ends up causing more issues. You need to have one person bring in something different than what it is that you're bringing to the table. One of the things that I absolutely want to touch is the most important structure or the principle that you need to follow. And it's that two partners should never bring the same thing to the table or do the exact same job. When two people share the same job, accountability disappears. Nobody clearly owns the outcome. And that's how most deals or partnerships fail. It also creates a lot of friction, disagreements about how to do the shared job, credit disputes, when it works. You blame the other person when it doesn't work. And it honestly just causes problems. One of the biggest experiences that I've had is partnering with someone that does the exact same thing I do. It just doesn't make sense. Why would I need to have someone else doing the exact same thing that I'm doing when there's not a problem that needs to be solved by the other person that I'm easily solving myself? When each person has their own clear area, you always know who's responsible for what. Super simple. I'm going to give you guys a perfect example. For the development projects that we have going on, the luxury short-term rentals, I've been very open about the projects that we're doing now, where we've raised the $1.4 million. We're developing new projects. In order to do so, I don't have any development experience. People tell me all the time, oh, you're a developer. I'm not a developer. I mean, I develop, but I don't actually go and handle all the work. I partner with people that can put the deals together. My expertise is real estate. I know how to structure deals. I know how to structure relationships. I know how to bring people together so that I'm a connector of sorts, that I can bring people together to make a deal happen. And I'm very creative about how I make deals work. And in order for me to get into development, I had to find someone that knows how to develop homes. And that's where my business partner, Luis, came in. He handles all of the development on the construction side because he owns a development construction company. In plain terms, he's the general contractor who makes sure that the property is going to be built. And then we needed the funds. So I brought in my business partner, Tyson, who for a living raises capital. And so he came in and he raised $1.5 million for us. We took that money and we put it together. Now, my part of the deal is to basically oversee the entire project to make sure everybody's staying in line. I'm making sure that Luis is following up with the timelines. If he has any problems, I step in and help. I have the short-term rental expertise. If we need any help with any type of acquisition, the land, the negotiations, how to talk to investors, all of that stuff is where I come in. I've had conversations with investors to make sure that they're at ease, knowing that their money is being put to good work. I've had conversations with attorneys to make sure that the fund structure is accurate and correct. I had conversations with Luis and the architects, our buddy Angel, to make sure that the project is moving along. What's the delays? Making sure that our investors are getting paid on time. And once the properties are completed, my company comes in and I'm going to manage it as the operating short-term rental. And if you can see, it's three triangles, or a triangle, a beautiful partnership. Everybody handles a specific point or a pain point in the business to make sure it all works together. And because of that, we've done significantly well. We're able to raise capital, build, either sell, keep, and manage these properties all in-house based on all of our perspective or all of our expertise. Now, one of the things that we had to sit down to do before any of that happened was make sure that we identified everybody's roles very clearly. And this is something that you guys absolutely have to do. I always have the awkward conversation with the expectations up front before anything happens. We sit down and we go, listen, this is what you're going to handle. So for Tyson, we knew he was just going to raise the capital. We said, hey, buddy, look, you're going to come in and all you're going to do is raise the money. We need you to come in and raise the capital. What is it that you want in order to be a part of this deal? And so that's when the negotiations came to place. We ended up doing an equity split between the three of us to make sure that it was fair. I'm a very fair person. I don't like to nitpick or nickel and dime people. If everybody's doing their perspective role, I'm very happy doing equal splits to make sure everybody's happy. Now, with that being said, people do get paid for their roles based on what they're bringing in. So for example, out of 100% of the pie, we split it three ways. Tyson owns a third, I own a third, Luis owns a third. With that being said, on top of that, in order for Luis to be able to do the work, his company as the contractor has to get paid for the job. So he took a fee. Tyson, in order for his company and his employees to be able to raise the capital, they have to get paid. So he took a fee. I didn't take a fee, but I take a fee on the back end. When I take the property as management, I get a management fee for managing the property itself. And before any of that structure comes in, we all sat down and we all agreed to those terms and everybody was happy. This does one of two things. Number one, it lets everybody have a clear picture of where we're going and what everybody's role is going to be. And number two, there's no confusion once the partnership and the structure has been set up. Every single person knows their role and knows exactly what has to get done in order to be successful. Now, the third thing that you absolutely need to have in your negotiation is the exit clause. What happens if someone doesn't follow through on what it is that they say they're going to do? For example, if Tyson ended up not raising the capital, does he lose his equity? Does he only get a piece of equity relevant to the money that he raised? What if Luis doesn't come through on the construction? What if I don't come through on the land acquisitions or the management of capital or the timelines or making sure our investors are getting paid or even managing the property on the back end? Do I get removed out of the deal? All of that has to be in writing to make sure that everybody knows, because when an awkward situation does arise and you have to fall back on that, it's in writing and there's no hard feelings. I'm telling you guys from experience, I've done this multiple times where I just came in very trusting, no contract done, and it ends up biting me in the butt because the other person doesn't come in. And I'm going to talk to you guys about an example in just a second as well as we go along. The third part I want to talk to you guys is, and I mentioned briefly about the equity splits, I like to be able to just be fair. However, a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people might only want to give a small percentage based on number of revenue that gets brought in. So if you have a deal per se, and all you need is $1 million or $100,000 or whatever that number may be, and you don't want to have to give somebody a full half, 50% of the deal, that's totally okay. As long as the person that you're partnering with is okay and understands that they're only going to get a percentage based on the money that they bring in. That's actually very common in big partnerships like syndications. For those of you that don't know what a syndication is where you pull a lot of people together and raise capital and you give small pieces of that equity based on the amount of money that gets brought in. Now, there's a lot of complications to that. We're not going to go into that today. But to give you guys an example, if I were to come in with $100,000 and you give me 2% equity, all I'm doing is making 2% for the $100,000 I'm putting in instead of taking a full 50% or 30% or whatever percent of the deal is, because all you need is a small percentage to help you move along in that partnership. Now, everything has to be in writing just so that you know, again, back to the structure, to make sure that everybody's moving in the right direction. There is no right or wrong way to split equity. There is no formula. What you actually decide is what's going to be moving forward. The biggest thing is having the relationship with those people. Now, let's talk about relationships. Relationships is one of the biggest thing that you need to do. I actually have this conversation with investors all the time. How do you know when a right person is, or who is the right person to partner up with, or when is it the right time to partner? And everybody says the exact same thing. You have to date the person. You have to take the person out. You have to be able to know this person. And what does that mean? It's the same thing as a personal relationship. When you're thinking of going out with someone, do you just immediately ask them out? Do you immediately ask for their hand in marriage? No. You date the person and you make sure that that person is the right fit for you. Are your goals aligned? That's the most important. If their goals are not aligned with you, why would you want to partner with that person? What's their history? Are they bankable? Have they made good financial decisions? Have they done things in the past that don't align with where it is that you want to do? Have they filed for bankruptcy? I know some people that won't partner with someone unless they filed for bankruptcy in the past, because in their eyes, they've gone through a downfall and turned around and came back up. And then I know other people that go, that's absolutely stupid. Why would you work with someone that's filed for bankruptcy knowing that they're not good at handling their money? Everybody's different. There's no right or wrong way. It just comes down to the trust that you develop with that person. For me, after years of experience from the ups and the downs, I look at multiple things. Number one, that my goals are aligned with that person, that they're heading in the right direction, which is personal growth, development, and giving. I want to give. I want to be able to help, but I also want to grow and develop. And if those people are not aligned with that, I just don't partner with them. I don't want to be stuck with someone who's stagnant, who's closed-minded, who doesn't want to grow, and who doesn't have a giving mentality. Because then that tells me the type of person that they are when it's just everything for them. Odds are that's a red flag and it's not a good partnership to be with. Number two, what's their history like in terms of not just their financial, but their life? Are they family people? Are they friendly? Do they have a lot of friends? Are they secluded people? Do they have other partnerships and have they done other deals? Which leads me to the third one. What's their experience? Is there things that they've done in the past that aligns with things that I'm doing now that they can help me grow in terms of, for example, development or raising capital or some sort of deal structure? It doesn't matter what what it is. In order for me to partner with you, I need to know that you've done something to either better yourself or to help me better myself as a person and in business as well. And then obviously there's the trust factor. Do they have good morals? Are they good people? Do they get along with their family? All of those things to me are super important. If I can't hang out with you for a month and take you, if we can't go on a trip and take you to dinner and not have a good conversation, enjoy ourselves and see that you're a genuine person, odds are we're not going to be able to work together. And those are the things that I look for. I don't know about a lot of you guys, but again, it goes down to the history, trust, their morals, their goals, and the type of person that they are. Because if you want to work with someone, you need to make sure that that person aligns with what it is that you're trying to do as well. And then obviously there's the knowledge part. The knowledge part is a big deal to me because I'm always trying to grow in my experience. There's a reason why I started the podcast. I like to learn from people and I like to share my knowledge. I like to give my knowledge and I like to be able to help others to be able to grow and do bigger things. And if a person that comes in with absolutely no knowledge at all, unless they're bringing something very different to the table like money or something like a time where they can help me solve a specific problem, odds are I don't want to partner with them because, well, they're not going to help me grow. They don't have an experience or in whatever it is that they're doing. Now, that doesn't have to mean that they have to have knowledge in the deal itself, but I want them to have some sort of experience in something in order for me to be able to partner with them because that also helps reduce the risk. And the risk is a big deal when you partner with someone because if someone tells me, hey, I have a ton of experience, and I have an example for this. If somebody tells me I have a lot of experience in construction, and then they show up and they don't actually know what they're doing or actually never done it or they're lying to you, odds are it's going to cost you a lot of time and a lot of money, which is the other two things that make a partnership grow. Which leads me to the time part. Who's in it every single day versus who wires the money and who checks into the people? This part in a partnership is huge. For example, me, I have a lot of time in my personal day. And that's because I've structured my business in a way where it's automated. We have teams, I have VAs, I check in with my people. And it's allowed me to be able to clear my schedule significantly to be able to handle things for others as they're busy. For example, Luis is always busy handling his construction. Tyson's always busy talking to investors. So I come in with the time to be able to help them wherever the time comes in of somebody have to step in. For example, documents need to be signed. I have to step in and make sure that the documents are being signed, that I'm talking to the realtors, that I'm talking to the title company, that I'm talking to the brokers, all of that stuff I'm able to do and be able to help them so that I can take stuff off their plate to make their lives easier. And that's just the partnership that we have. And the last part that I want to touch on is the giving part. Is this person genuinely willing to give? Not what they promise at the start when everyone's excited about the deal, but are they willing to actually put in the time and effort that's needed? I can't stand partnering with someone that will only do what they say they're going to do and nothing more because they feel like they're overdoing. There's been times in partnerships where I've done way more than everybody else in the relationship, and that's okay because I know that I'm signing up to make sure that the deal is going to be a success. And that's the most important part. Are you partnering with people that are willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that you guys all succeed? Whether that's putting in extra time, putting in extra effort, doing extra work, sometimes putting your ego aside and maybe stepping in and handling someone else's problem because they left you hanging. All of that has to be in play to make sure that the deal succeeds. And if you're the type of person that says, hey, I'm only here for this and I don't want to do anything else, odds are it's going to be a very bad deal or you're not going to be able to create a good relationship with those people to be able to make sure that the deal actually works. Just, don't be the person that says, oh, well, my role was only to handle operations and I'm not doing anything else outside of operations until that time comes in. And you're needed to maybe make a phone call to a realtor or maybe go look at the property or maybe walk the property. Put in the time and the effort and be willing to be open to move around and help the other person whenever it's needed. I'm going to give you guys an example. I did a 4-person partnership at 25% each. And this was something that was brought to me a while ago. And we were trying to figure out how to make the deal work. And these people, the guys that I was partnering with, they wanted to take 70% of the deal. And I'm like, look, it just doesn't make sense for us to do that. I'm going to put this deal together. I'm going to bring other people in. Let's just split it evenly to make sure that everybody's happy doing what it is that we're going to do. Even splits from day one. That way, everybody's got equal roles, equal splits, equal equity, and everybody's fair. Now, I understand some people are going to do more work than others, but there's also the perspective of without these people, we can't make the deal work. And would you rather let the deal pass than to just split it evenly and have it be fair? And so everybody agreed, and everybody continued moving forward in the right direction. Now, when you do even splits and when you're talking about doing things with people, there's a few things that always come to mind. A lot of people are always now, as you start doing bigger deals and you start getting into bigger partnerships, money is the easiest contribution. And a lot of people don't really like to give big equity for money because, to be quite fair, money comes around very easily when the deal is a very good deal or you're paying really good interest on private money that you're raising. However, there's always the flip side. If you're not capable of raising that money and you bring someone in that can do that, then why would it not make sense for you to be able to give a piece of the pie to make sure that you can make the deal work? I say money is the easiest contribution to measure for two reasons. Because over the life of the deal, the people doing the work and making the decisions and making sure that the deal's moving and that the checks are clearing, that's a whole lot more work than just bringing in money one time. It usually ends up causing problems or rifts in the relationship and the partnership when one person has to step in and do a ton of work and one person, all they did was bring in capital and that's it, and they're completely hands off. When that happens, what I've seen is when specific people come in and they go, hey, here's $1 million, I'm out, and the other person's doing all the work, the person doing all the work at some point is going to get either burnt out or overwhelmed or upset because the other partner is not doing anything at all other than bringing the capital. But what they don't understand is that without the capital, that deal would have never came through, or they never would have been able to structure that deal. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're feeling like you're overwhelmed or you're doing more than someone else just because all they did was bring money. Money is an important part. However, it's the easiest part on a lot of these big deals. The partner that's usually bringing the time ends up doing more than their percentage suggests. So back to my 4-way equity split, one person brought in money, one person brought in management, one person brought in construction, and then one person brought in boots on the ground. And so everybody had their perspective role. And over time, certain people got upset because other people were getting paid in comparison to the other one. And it caused a rift in the relationship. And now, again, things happen, but everything's in writing for a reason and you make it work. One of the things that I haven't touched on is in terms of splits, when you're getting into really big deals, splits can also reflect who signs on the debt, like who's carrying the liability, whose name and reputation is attached, whose credit is going to be involved. A lot of people don't put that into perspective, but that's one of the most important things to have to worry about. For example, if I were to sign on the dotted line today to make a deal work for the rest of the group, I would want to make sure I'm fairly compensated because if the deal goes south, I'm the one responsible for all that capital, all that time, and the deal itself to make sure that I'm not having to lose my house or any other properties or deals that I have because I'm the one that signed on the dotted line for the bank. And so if I'm going to be the one that's guaranteeing everything, I want to make sure that I'm getting an equal split. And that's more important than bringing in money, time, or effort, in my opinion. All right, so I'm going to talk about a few examples on really bad partnerships that I've had and some really good ones that are obviously going. I've already talked about the good one with Luis and Tyson and all these guys. And I don't like to give names out there, but, I love the people I work with. Everybody that I work with has been awesome, aside from a handful of people. I've had partners where on a deal, this guy ended up turning into a gigantic lawsuit. This kid, Israel, I had him on my Instagram for a long time. A deal was brought to me to buy something here in Southern California. And this guy comes in and he's like, hey, I'll bring the deal. I'll do the construction on the work. Let's buy the deal together. I structured this entire deal to buy this land with other partners. And I basically put the deal together. I structured the partnership agreement. I come in and I do the operations. I bring in capital. He comes in, he brings in capital. He brings in the construction partnership part of things, the GC part of things. And then the partners, the other two partners are the ones who actually own the deal. And they're just giving us a piece of the pie. Basically, they're giving up equity to us for our experience and our money and our time. And so it was a fantastic deal if we would have made it work. And we all come in together and we said, yeah, let's do it. And so as time's going, we set up everything in the partnership, everything's structured in writing, everything's done correctly, the way it should be done. And I come in and I buy all the furniture, I get all the houses set up. And this kid, as he's setting up the property and working on the rehab, I show up about 3 months in and he's got nobody working on the property. And I'm like, uh-oh, red flag. So I call him and he's like, oh, I got my crew coming. And, in the beginning, he promised that he had a crew of like 20 people, that he was going to come in and make the property work. And so everybody was like, okay, great. And he came highly recommended from other people. So we all believed him, and he had a construction company. So as we're going along, nothing's getting done on the property. No, there's no construction. Nothing's been rehabbed. Nobody's there. So I call all the partners up and I go, guys, it's been 3 months. This guy's not showing up. He's got one person working in the house. It's one of his family members. I don't think he's got the people that he told us he was going to bring on. So we get on the phone call and And we get him on the line, and sure enough, he brings in a group of like 5 or 6 people. He ends up hiring a different company to come in. Red flag number 2. And so as we're building the property, the property does get set up, but one of his deals was he had to bring in a certain number of capital to be able to build some pickleball courts on this deal. Now, I'm obviously releasing a lot of stuff that's public. It doesn't matter. We've gone through a whole lawsuit. We're in the process of going after this kid's assets to make sure that I get my money recouped. And obviously, I want you guys to learn from my mistakes. But I end up loaning this gentleman some money, close to $100,000. We end up putting the money towards the property. The property gets the pickleball courts and a lot of other rehab. I buy all the furniture. We get the property set up. Everything starts up and running. And when it's time for him to start making payments on the money I loaned him, he disappears. And then he leaves the property hanging. There's 4 houses on the land, and the 4th one isn't rehabbed yet. And so nobody can get a hold of this guy, and he's fled. He left the state. He's living in another state, no idea where he's at, and we can't get a hold of him. And so at this point, the other partners and I have to get on a phone call to see how we can basically fix the damages. And so it was simple. We sat down and we just restructured the deal. He broke his part of the deal. He gets removed. He lost his equity, and we continue down the line to make sure that the deal's working. And so I come in, I continue to operate, we're running the property correctly, and he leaves. The only problem is I'm the one stuck because I loaned him money outside of it so that he can continue being part of the deal. Now, mistake number 1, I should never have loaned this guy money because I already knew that he was already causing problems. But 2, I wanted him to still be a part of the deal and make sure that we can make the deal work. Long story short, it was a huge learning lesson for me. This guy ended up taking a bunch of capital, disappeared, didn't finish the project, and we had to hire someone else to come in and come out of more money out of pocket to make sure that that property gets done. Perfect example for how a partnership is going to fail. Number 1, the person comes in and promises the world without actual proof. Number 2, when the project's starting, nothing's getting done. Number 3, he disappears, and now we're all screwed. Now, again, taught me a valuable lesson. I didn't spend time with this guy. I didn't know who he was. I trusted other people's words. Instead of me dating him and actually getting to know him and going and meeting his people and talking to his relatives and seeing his company, I didn't do any of that. I just trusted him blindly and decided that he was the right person for the job when clearly he wasn't, and it ended up backfiring. And so now, going forward, nobody gets a dollar and nobody gets a partnership until I know who you are. I've met your family. I know your group. I know your company. I know your employees. I know the people around you, and I've seen the work that you've done prior to us partnering together. It was a huge learning lesson. It was a very expensive one, but one of the best that I've ever learned. And now, again, we're in the process of litigation, going to recover those funds, and who knows if we'll ever get them. And to me, I don't care. It's a loss. It's a loss on my books, and we move on with our lives. It just taught me a very good lesson to make sure that I never do it again. Hence, why I have such a good partnership now. I know my business partner who owns the construction company. I know all his workers. I know his wife. We spend time together. We travel together. We do a lot of fun stuff, and our goals are aligned. We know we want to move in the right direction. Deals will always go south, no matter what. There will always be a point where something is going to fail. It just depends on how good you do to make sure that you bring the deal back up, to make sure that you can succeed in the deal. I have other partners where the deal went south, where we had no contract, and it's been years, and they're still paying me back because they're just good, genuine people. They know that over time, they're still going to be able to pay me back, and they had to come out of pocket, and it sucks, and it's unfortunate, but they're still putting the effort to pay me back. Those are the type of people that I want to align myself with. I would never take capital from someone for a partnership deal, knowing that if I lost their money, I can never pay them back. I'm signing on the dotted line, and I know for a fact that I will always pay those people back if any deal fails, no matter what happens. And that's what makes a good partnership work. I know that if we're doing something together and I'm signing on the dotted line, or if I'm bringing in capital from someone else or someone else is bringing in money, no matter what happens, I'm going to make sure I do my damn best to make sure that that partnership is structured in a way so that nobody loses and that we all win together. Because I want to make sure that my word means something and that we're able to succeed in our individual roles. And that might mean me stepping in to help someone else. And that might mean me having to do something that's outside of our original agreed deal. But I want to make sure that we're going to move in the right direction because I'm partnered with the right people. Let's talk about setting up the partnership. I know I give you guys a big story and talking about all my downfalls and the learning lessons. And there's a lot, guys. This episode can go on for 5 hours talking about all this stuff. You know, I've done partnerships where I've raised capital, just simple promissory notes where we've given equity. I've done a syndication. I've done partnerships where people thought I left them hanging because of me no longer doing operations on some of these deals because it went sideways. And I'm not saying I'm a saint. Things happen, but that's why we have things in writing, and you still become a partner and you still make sure that those things are being done to make sure that you're able to move forward in the right direction to ultimately make sure that the deal succeeds and to make sure that our investors are not losing money. It's that simple. So anyway, back to the deal structure. So let's talk about how to set up a partnership, and number one, how to vet a good partner. After all that experience and everything that I went through and the learning lessons, my standard basically changed. I now look at the person as hard as I can as hard as I look at the deal, basically. A bad deal is going to hurt you once, and a bad partner is going to hurt you the entire time that you're connected to them. And you don't want to be connected to someone for a long time that's just causing problems for you. I verify that they have a track record. Not what they tell me, but things that I can actually confirm. I do things like talk to people that they've worked with, especially on the deals that went badly. I want to know what went south and how do they recover, and what do they do to make sure to make it right, whether it was for themselves, their investors, or their other partners. Those are the things that I want to know before I'm going into anybody else. I'm going to learn more about a person from their bad deals than all the good stuff that everybody talks about. Another thing you might want to do is just do a small project together. Do something little that could show you their character and the way that they're going to behave. You don't have to go into a giant deal with someone until you do something. Maybe just hang out with them and talk about doing something small, like, I don't know, a small deal, whatever that may be. How do they perform under stress? A lot of the things that I do is I go to these mastermind events and I have people teach. That's one of the things that I do actually to vet people is how are they teaching other people their experience and how they do things. If they can't teach someone something that they say they're going to come in and do, odds are they're not very good at doing it. Either that, I just happen to have that leg up on people because I do a lot of masterminds and I do a lot of groups where we teach people how to do these things. The incentive alignment. What happens if they fail? What do they lose? A partner with nothing risk, no liquidity, no skin in the game, no assets, they're going to lose very different than the person who comes in with a lot of that stuff, signing on the dotted line. And then obviously, guys, I trust my gut. For the red flags. I've turned down deals barely on gut feelings. Something feels off early. It's easier to just say, hey, never mind, and you move on with your life. You don't want to be dealing with issues down the line because you went against your gut or your gut instinct, thinking that person was good, knowing that all the flags were there. I mean, back to this other deal I just gave you guys an example of. All the red flags were there. From day one, nobody showed up at the property. Red flag. All the promises, everything that was around. I mean, those things, if you pay attention, odds are you see the writing on the wall and you can continue to skip past it. The second part of setup is the contracts. So let's talk about the actual contract structure and what you put in it to make sure everybody's doing what they say they're going to be doing. Number one, you want to do some sort of JV partnership agreement, whether that's a separate LLC that you guys all own together that's going to control the deal to give you that level of protection. That could be one of them. I come in with my entity, my holding company, and that holding company always owns a piece of the LLC or whatever entity is we're doing the deal with as a partnership. And in writing, we very clearly define our roles. For example, Tyson was raising up to a certain number of revenue, of money. And we put the number up to his number in writing so that he knows exactly what he has to accomplish. And then what amount of money he's going to get paid and what type of equity he's going to get. Luis, what kind of fee he's going to get and what the work and what his role is, my role, what I'm going to get and what I have to actually do to make sure that I acquire that. There's thresholds. As you're going to make sure that things are getting done. It's similar to when you go and hire a contractor. You don't pay them up front. You pay them after the work gets done. Same thing with this. You want to structure in writing in your contract exactly what everybody's roles as clearly defined as possible so that there's no confusion. Once you have all that in place, then you put all the legalities behind it. Who owns what, who's doing what entity owns what, and then what's the exit clauses? What is it that's going to cause us to, if something happens and there's a problem, how do we handle it? So for example, if somebody can't complete, let's say I could not come in and manage anymore, do I lose my equity or do I just lose my management fee? There's a big difference here, right? The amount of work that I'm putting in, how is that being justified? Is it in writing? What is it that I have to do to make sure that the deal succeeds? A lot of times, all I do is put deals together. And because I put deals together, I get a piece of the pie because I'm making sure that I'm putting all the key components in place to make sure that that deal succeeds. And that's all it is. And then writing, it just says strictly that all I'm doing is putting the deal together and making sure that everybody else is staying aligned and that I'm making sure everybody's following their correct roles. The last thing you want to put is what is it that you want to do when you end the partnership? How do you end it? Does everybody go their own way? Do you sell the asset and everybody gets paid evenly? What if one partner wants to exit? Can you buy them out or can they be bought out? That has to be in writing. Let's just say someone wants out 5 months in. Can they be able to step out at that point? Is there a time frame up to where somebody can leave? Do you have to wait a year? Do you have to wait 2 years? I can't tell you guys more how many times that's happened where somebody's wanting to leave from a deal early on when we're like, dude, you can't leave yet. There's no money in the deal, and they want to be bought out for whatever they think the deal is worth. And you're like, dude, that's not going to work. And that's where legalities happen. So you have to put that in writing. Hey, nobody's leaving this deal until X, Y, and Z time frame, and X, Y, and Z money is in the account. And at that point, whatever the value is appraised, that's when you can be bought out. And then you have to bring in another attorney and then get the whole thing appraised, and then you have to deal with it. But all of that has to be in writing. Now, look, there's a million things you can do, right? We do promissory notes, we do JV agreements, we do partnership agreements. I mean, there's all kinds of random stuff you can do out there. A lot of them can be done very easily. I mean, you can use Claude to write up a partnership agreement. Just have an attorney drafted, so make sure all the legalities are there from your state and wherever it is that you're doing the partnership. Because the one thing you want to do is you want to keep good partners, and keeping good partners means having everything in writing. And if they're upset that you're asking to put things in writing, that's a red flag, and that's your gut telling you that you should not be partnering with those people. I've never had anybody be upset at me because I've put clauses in contracts to protect everybody, ever, because they understand and they know how to do business and they know that it's going to work. The partnership going really well that I have right now, everybody knows their role. We raise the capital, the houses are being built, and I'm making sure that the houses are in operation. It's super simple. I have another partnership where I handle the acquisitions and they handle the day-to-day, and it works great, and everybody's happy and everything's moving along. I raise capital and they go and acquire properties, or they've brought me money and I go and make sure that the property is working, and I go and acquire the property and I get the property in operation. I've done all kinds of different partnerships with time, where I've put in the time and effort, or I've put in the money for someone else to make the deal work, and everything continues to move, or my experience or my knowledge. And I've taught people how to do it, and I take a small fee on the backside for helping them succeed in whatever deal that they want to do. There's really no hidden agenda behind any of it. You just want to make sure that everything's in writing. I'll tell you about the software that actually runs my business. Hospitable. I run properties in a few different markets, and I do it all remotely. I'm not pulling that off without one place holding everything together. All your calendars sync in real time. Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, Google, your direct booking site, all of it talking to each other in real time. So you don't get double booked. And if that's ever happened to you, you know how bad it is. Refunds, bad reviews, lost reservations. It's a pain in the butt. Hospitable's new dynamic pricing is built right in it now. It updates your rates every day off the market and pushes them out everywhere for you. And you can do markups per OTA. You're not touching it once. You just have to oversee it every now and then to make sure it's correct. You can even build your own direct booking website on the platform and get you on Google so that you can take bookings without giving up those OTA fees. We all know about the 15.5% fee. And the operation side is honestly my favorite part. It assigns your cleaners around every booking. You pay them right there in the app, and it spits out a new door code for every single guest. And my favorite part is their newest addition, the upsells. We've made about $450 this week on upselling early check-ins, late checkouts, and entertainment packages. Something like 300,000 operators run on Hospitable at the moment. If you're scaling and you're downsizing your tabs and don't want to do more work, you should definitely check out Hospitable. Links in the description. Towards the end of the episode here, I can keep going on forever. One of the things that I want you guys to just make sure you understand is, look, you can partner with anybody. It can be friends and family. That's the toughest one. Friends and family are really difficult to partner with because you have a relationship and it causes problems, and the expectation is there for you to either do more or do less, or to be completely out of the way if they decide to take over. Just make sure that no matter who you do it with, you set the expectation up front, and that you make sure that everybody knows what their role is before you get on it. The last thing you want is to have a one-sided relationship where it's you have to step in and do all the work because the other person doesn't want to do it. I have so many people that come to me all the time complaining because their partnerships have completely ghosted or have left them, but there's nothing in writing that says that they could leave. Look, if you step in and make sure the deal works, have it in writing. After X, Y, and Z day, I did all of this, and you're officially out of this deal as of this day because you failed to deliver on your promise. Here it is in writing, and here's the contract. Whatever way you decide to structure these deals, again, make sure that you do it the right way. Make sure that you use your intuition, use your common sense, and do it the right way. Again, there's no right or wrong way to create a partnership happen. My biggest thing is I'm just trying to give you guys perspective on experience, give you guys perspective on how to do it, and give you guys perspective on when to do it right. And again, I can go on this episode for hours and hours and hours and give you guys a million different points and examples and everything else. But I will tell you this, partner because you need what they bring to the table, not because what you don't want to do alone. No two partners bring the same thing. There's no formula for equity. You got to weigh the relationship, you got to weigh the knowledge, you got to weigh the time, and what people are actually giving to the partnership. Vet the person as hard as the deal and start with something small. You don't want to jump into something big without knowing who they are. Get to know their family, get to know who they are, and get to know all of the people around them. Are they going to be an active partner or a passive partner? Make sure you decide that in writing before day one even gets started. Listen, winning in court and getting paid are two different things. Okay. Again, I won the lawsuit, haven't been paid. And the headache that I had to go through, a huge learning lesson, and I'd rather avoid that going forward. Therefore, I just make sure that I'm partnering with the right people. Protect the money before it moves. When someone brings in a lot of capital and another person, you just see them spending it freely, ask the questions, have it in writing. Who's the one that's going to be in charge of the funds? In all of my deals, I check that, making sure that all the money's moving in the right direction, because the last thing I need is somebody to pocket cash because they were short on another deal or because they need to get through some sort of life issue. That's not going to work, and it's going to cause a lot of problems. Almost everything covered today, guys, comes back to roles. Clear roles in writing with people who give as much as they take. And this is something that I want you guys to just really take away from this episode. With all that being said, I'm going to end it here. If you guys have questions, if there's anything else that you guys want to deal with or want to clarify, I really have been through a lot, and I really have had a lot of really great partners and a lot of really bad partners and a lot of whatever partners in between. Some have left me hanging. Some have had me do more work. Some have done more than I have done, but they've all been great learning experiences. And some have cost me a lot of money, and some have cost me a lot of heartache and a lot of gray hairs. So with all that being said, I hope this episode was helpful. I know I went kind of a bit on a tangent on a few parts, but leave me a comment, leave me a message, shoot me a DM. You guys know where to find me on Instagram. And I'm always happy to talk and teach and get you guys through the day. With that being said, I love you. I'll see you on the next episode. Real quick, can we take a second? Do me a favor. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I know every channel says this, but it really does matter. When you like and subscribe, it tells the algorithm to push this to more operators who need it. 2 seconds for you, and it gets me in front of the next person trying to figure this stuff out. And if you want to take it a step further, hit the share button and send it to someone you think can benefit from this conversation. And for real, you're spending your time with me, and that means the world. I love you guys.